All right, everybody, as we're closing in on the end of the semester and we're gearing up for the final project, we're talking this week about how to keep something exciting. How do you week after week, month after month, year after year, keep the content exciting on a social media presence? That's what we're discussing. Chapter 7 discusses this particular topic. And how do you deliver exciting, surprising, delighting content on a regular basis to your customers? In short, a lot of this comes down to listening to your customers and to responding to them on a regular basis, anticipating what they like and responding to them before perhaps they even knew what it was that they were looking for. It's in the same way as forming friendships with individuals. Again, organically. How do you maintain a friendship? By responding to your friends in an organic sort of way. So, Chapter 17 is something to pay attention to closely. Chapter 18 expands on this by saying, don't sell, make it easy and compelling for your customers to buy. This goes back to an earlier chapter, an earlier discussion we had concerning our friend Susan, if you'll remember the discussion about Susan who lived and breathed cars. The point of this particular story was that if all you're doing is pushing, selling, day in and day out, people tend to turn you off. They tend to not gravitate toward people, or in our case, social media platforms that only sell. If that's their only purpose is to sell, to push their product, and to pepper you on a daily basis with incentives and promotions, and that's the only content, people tend not to gravitate toward them. So, what Chapter 18 talks about is how to create an experience in such a way as to facilitate easy interaction that then facilitates easy purchasing for your customers. So pay attention to that in Chapter 18. I've expanded on this with some of the links that I've given you, which I would ask you to take a look at and pay attention to as you start thinking, once again, about your team's semester project, which will be to select a real-world client and develop a social media plan for them. Okay? So once again, you can go back to the Getting Started module and pay attention to your semester project. It's never too early to start thinking about this. How do you generate content? How do you respond to your target audiences? And how do you come up with a plan to regularly generate exciting and surprising content that is responsive to your target audience's desires? I've also given you in the conclusion for this week a discussion of a concept called uses and gratifications theory. This basically says that people gravitate toward content in the media that they find, believe it or not, useful or gratifying. Useful meaning that they can incorporate this media or this content into their life in some way, shape, or form. It's informing, it's informational, it's something that they need. Or gratifying, it builds them up, it modifies their mood, it makes them happy, it supports their worldview, it does something for them in a psychological, emotional level. So, are you providing content that does one of those two things on a regular basis? And just saying 25% off doesn't necessarily do that. So think about this. And then finally, I've asked you to give me a little bit of feedback in a short discussion. Can you think of a product or service that has a social media presence that you find particularly useful or gratifying? One that you engage with regularly? A brand that provides you with a regular stream of content that enhances your life in a meaningful way? Think about that. Give me some quick feedback on here. Again, it doesn't have to be extensively long. just give me some feedback and interact with one another a bit here. I'll see you next week.